And to the details now. What started as a government effort to reprofile its debt and free up some fund for urgent government programs is now the subject of growing controversy. The minority raised a matter of conflict of interest on the sale of the bond, which was heavily subscribed by Franklin Templeton, a major portfolio investor. The minority is suspicious that a board member of the Franklin Templeton, Trevor Travagan, has been favored to obtain 95% of the bonds because he is co-board chair with Ghana's finance minister and the Attorney General on the Enterprise Insurance Group. Today, there's a demand from the NDC UK Ireland chapter for the finance minister to step down or be sacked. We'll speak to them shortly, but let's bring to you the media war between the minority led by their spokesperson on finance, Keeselata Forson, and the government led by the Vice President. First, here's the Vice President speaking to my colleague George Riafe on the sidelines of the IMF World Bank spring meetings in Washington.
This is the task the President Nana Akufo-Addo has set us to make Ghana the investment destination of choice, obviously the most business-friendly economy in Africa. And we take this very seriously. And I think, our first budget basically sets the ball rolling in that direction to make Ghana the most business. So I was basically telling the people gathered about what is happening in Ghana, the nature of the economy, the transformation that we want to take place, the initial steps we have taken in the last 100 days, and the promise of more to come, and the promise of transformation in our economy. The reprofiling is part of a broader strategy to bring down the burden of the debt. As the minister says, the interest payments on the debt alone is $2.4 billion. And that is too high. So the strategy of reprofiling is just replacing shorter-term debt with longer-term debt and more expensive debt. It shows a lack of understanding. The minority have never understood this economy, and it's just amazing that people on that side who were actually in charge of managing the economy will be making such statements. It shows ignorance. It really shows ignorance, and I am so sad when I hear that from people who should know better. And so they need to understand. Maybe they should read a little. They need to understand what took place. We issued a CD bond. There's no secrecy to the matter. It was very well invested in. The holders have invested many times in Ghana. The bonds that were in place when SECTECPA issued them, they bought them. 24% interest rate. This time is 19%. So we are doing even much better. But this is what politics has been reduced to, trying to say things which really have no basis and are, basically wrapped in ignorance. So I'm a bit sad for Ghana and for them, because they are really demonstrating a lot of ignorance of the process of management of this economy. And I think that is where we are.
That is Vice President Dr. Mahamadu Bawumia speaking there. Today, the minority spokesperson on finance, Keeselata Forson, has hit back at him. He says the concerns are legitimate and cannot be swept under the carpet, as the Vice President appears to be doing, in their opinion.
Hearing these words coming from Vice President, I beg to say that it's not presidential. The voice sounded like him, and I have no reason to doubt that is the Vice President who spoke. But I doubt that this matter can come from the mouth of a Vice President, because one, it is not presidential, as I said, and clearly the fact that we should recognize that the minority has a big responsibility given to them by the Constitution of this Republic as a major stakeholder in governance to raise concerns when they think that things have not gone well for the betterment of this country. Our concerns are simple. I heard the Vice President talking about the fact that one, the company concerned, Franklin Templeton, has been in the system. We've never denied that. We've said they've been in the system in the past. But what we are saying is the circumstances that this bond was issued is very much so very different from what we have seen in the past. Secondly, the Vice President made comment that in the past we issued a bond at 24%. Let me say clearly and ask the Vice President some few questions. Question one from me to the Vice President. Mr. Vice President, simple.
Okay, so I'll come to your questions, forgive me, because that's the detail that we will explore in this particular case. So you don't believe that the comments from the Vice President was presidential? Are they saying that it's not true? Did you display ignorance of the exact issues that we're talking about at this particular point in time? Since you've been in the ministry, did you deliberately feign knowledge of having to engage this Franklin Templeton in times past?
I think that's what I was trying to explain, that he was saying that we've engaged them with 24% in the past. And what I'm trying to say is that 24% in the past, the tenor wasn't 7 years. The tenor indeed wasn't 15 years. So you cannot compare a 2-year bond at 24% or 3-year bond at 24% to, 19.75% tenor bond.
So
you can also
19 for 15 years, you think is not a better deal than 24%? For how many years was it anyway?
He's making reference to a 2-year bond at 24%.
Yeah.
You cannot compare 2-year bond 24% to that of a 15-year bond at 19.75.
So the shorter the period, the higher the interest in this case.
That's it. Because you are locking it in for a very long time. And one will expect that under the yield curve principle, clearly, if it's going to be a longer dated bond, you pay lower than a short dated bond. That is the principle. That is how the market works.
But the amount of money is involved, doesn't it also matter?
Yes, and then also you will notice that in the past, you didn't see one single transaction of $2.25 billion.
Because you're not ambitious enough, that's the claim here.
It's not about ambitious, it's not about ambition. But the fact that, let us also remember, that at the time the bond was issued, inflation was in the middle, around 18-19%. Today we are talking about 13-point-something% inflation. So can you compare that to this time? Can you compare the monetary policy rate then to today to the monetary policy rate? So comparing like with like. So I treat him, he's asking us that we don't read. He should go back and read. Rather read the very comment that we've made. We've never said that we've never engaged Templeton in the past. We've engaged them in the past. So that is the concern. Let us go back to the issue. Yeah. You see, I'm sure you've heard the Honorable Haruna Idrisu coming out with a statement.
The minority has issued a statement. The Ministry of Finance, where you worked previously, which is actually predominantly made up of public servants that worked with you too, many of these, we understand, prepared this particular document which was released, is saying that, mindful of the fact that you particularly have been in the ministry, you should have, for instance, known that the issuance of the bond couldn't have been secretive. The procedure, the processes outlined are very clear. Yet you sought to create the impression that this was done in a secretive manner.
Okay. Let me raise 2 points here. One, I doubt the statement was coming from the Ministry of Finance and public sector.
When you say your doubts, I mean...
And I explain why I doubt it.
Okay.
You could see spelling mistakes everywhere in the statement. And I know Ministry of Finance, have worked with them, how professional they are in this statement.
Sorry, I mean, I've done a gross reading of this particular statement. Can you, yes, yeah, one specifically.
Look at the spelling of aspersions. It's wrongly spelled.
Aspersions?
Yes, it's wrongly spelled. It's there. I mean, check it. That's the statement.
And so even the Ministry of Finance, there can't be a mistake there?
I doubt. I have my doubt. I've worked there in the past, so that's what I'm saying. Okay. And secondly, let me point you to one fact. What the minority is saying is simple. We are not seeking to malign anybody. We have cause for concern. Our concerns are legitimate. Our concerns are needed. Very important, we have to make this clear to the public. We are saying that, one, contrary to what the Ministry of Finance is saying, that, one, the issuance calendar, advertised a 5 and a 7-year bond, a 7-year bond and a 15-year bond. It's untrue. You can check the issuance calendar from the ministry, from the Bank of Ghana website. Okay. There's nothing like that. So one, that is not correct. Number two, we, in the minority statement that Honorable Haruna Idrisu has just signed and sent out, we made certain point that the guideline to the bond was issued around 5:37 p.m. on the 30th of March, at a time that we believe that most domestic investors may have gone to sleep or left their offices. We say this because you will notice that if it is a domestic bond, clearly the description is that you market it to local investors, domestic investors, whereas you open a window for others like foreigners to participate. So your focus is on domestic investors, but you are opening a window for foreigners to participate. If you send the issuance calendar, the guideline around 5:37 p.m., you open the transaction around 9 a.m. and you make an announcement to the public after you have opened it. This is our concern. What we're also saying is that you will notice clearly in the emails that they sent out, the Ghanaian investor, ordinary Ghanaian investor, had an announcement around 9:09 after the transaction has been opened. It was quickly done. Around 4:20 p.m., the issuance, the same day, around 4:20 p.m. on the same day, on the 31st, then issuance summary came.
Sorry, but they said they issued on March 30, not 31st rather.
No. March 30th, around 5:37 p.m., an email was sent. It was until that time that after the transaction has opened, that a public announcement was made.
Okay.
And the public announcement came after the transaction has been opened. Around 4:20 p.m., issuance summary was communicated to the public saying that the bond has been closed and the deal has been reached.
Is this abnormal?
It's abnormal.
Has never happened?
It's very abnormal. Has never happened under the book burden.
The book runners who have actually run this particular process, they were the same you used previously.
But have they done it before? That's the question. This is different.
Have they not done it before?
Not at all. Not at all. We say this on authority. We're challenging them to come out. Under a book building approach, you normally open the book minimum of 3 days to encourage competition.
So sorry. When you say they've not done it before, it means that they've not used this process before, but they're the same people who were running the process, even in 2015.
No, I'm saying that the book runners, those that the Ministry of Finance have contracted them to take us through book building, normally will allow 3 days. And these circumstances, it was done half a day.
Okay, but the substance of what they're saying is that beyond Franklin Templeton, there were 25 other institutions that were part of this process. Are you disputing that?
You see, let me make, even before, the Ministry of Finance failed to give us the names of the 25 other investors that took part and what holding are they holding.
Are you doubting that?
Yes. No, I've raised the question. So I was thinking that they would have come to the public by listing the names and the percentages. It doesn't matter, even if it's 1,000 people. What matters is that if one individual takes 95% of the existing bond, of the very bond that you have just issued of 2.25 billion, and you claim that you have done well, it's a matter that we have to question. There's no competition. If you even have 100 people, each person has 1% or 0.1%, and one person getting almost 96%. Do you think it's competitive? It's not. So the matter doesn't happen. But you see,
let me ask you this question, which is very important, because you insist that it was non-conventional. They believe it is still conventional. Now, can you cite a single bond issuance that followed the 3-day and not this particular single-day activity?
I've said that this is not the first time we've done. We've issued bond under book building approach. Okay. In the past, we go through those.
Which year specifically are you?
I can't be specific with 1 year, but I threw the challenge. They should come out and tell us that one single year, if there was a particular one from 2005 to date, we ever issued a bond and a book building approach, and we closed it in a half a day. It's not the case. That has never happened.